Whether it's fear, worry, time, tech, or marketing, there is a lot of obstacles that can pop up when you're launching your own digital product. And I want to tackle all of those today. Obstacle number one, the idea of creating a digital product has you frozen with overwhelm and you just don't know where to start. You've definitely come to the right place. I am a naturally anxious person and I tend to absolutely get uptight about making decisions that feel really important. But I'm excited to tell you that this is not a decision that is going to make or break your business. You can change your mind as many times as you want or need to, and it's all going to be okay. I remember feeling really intimidated about making this choice in the past, worried that I needed to make the right one. But it has been far more important to me over time to learn from the things that I launch rather than worry that it's the right thing that I launched. But to make this process easy, one, I don't want you thinking about the whole thing. There's a lot of steps, there's a lot of little things you need to do along the way, but I want to take you through it step by step. And that's exactly why I've laid it all out for you inside Digital Product Fast Track. Inside the strategy portion of milestone one, I am really helping you make decisions, meaning we are going to only make one at a time. And I think when we break it down step by step like that, it's going to be so much easier for you to get across the finish line. Obstacle number two, you're scared of the visibility that may come with creating a digital product. What if people don't like what you have to say? I'm not going to lie, the visibility can be really intimidating. And I thought maybe it would get easier with time, but I still find myself anxious about people seeing my work, people reading my work, people hearing my voice. That being said, it is such an important piece because your work deserves to be out in the world, to be consumed, to be benefited from. And that's not possible unless you're willing to get visible. But regardless of what we're selling, whether it's a service, a physical product, anything, when we go to market ourselves, a natural part of that is the fact that we have to get in front of people. People need to discover us, learn what it is that we do, and earn a trust in what we're doing and ultimately buy from us. But that's not possible unless they know we exist. One thing that's really helped me with this, though, is when I'm writing a piece of content or recording a video or making a podcast, I always think about the one person. I don't think about a room full of people listening to me or watching me or consuming my content. I think about sitting across from the one person that I want it to benefit. And when I put myself in that position, it feels like we're just chatting over a cup of coffee. And I can provide genuine value and insight based on their circumstances and the things they want and need. And it's not going to be for everyone. And that's okay. It does put you at risk of some people not liking what it is that you do. But for the most part, the majority of us aren't producing highly controversial content. We're trying to help people. We're trying to impact their lives, whether personally or professionally. And could you piss someone off along the way? Yeah. Could you make someone mad or trigger someone or receive hateful commentary? It's a possibility. And I've definitely been a part of that. I've had people call me names. I've had people comment on my appearance, whether that was warranted or asked for or not. And it does sting, but what helps is staying focused on your values. If you show up and you walk in those values, you will feel confident about the work you're putting out into the world. Ultimately, if someone wants to critique that, it's more of a reflection of them than it is of you. Now, not to say that there aren't certain people that deserve to give you criticism and you learn from it. There's been absolutely situations where I was ignorant and I needed to learn a lesson. And I took that and absorbed it and figured out how to react based on that information and move forward. But for the most part, this is not going to be as scary as you think it is because you're not actually interacting with these people. You're not in the room with potentially tens of thousands of people. You're usually in the room all by yourself. I know for me, I find it a lot easier to record or create or even write when no one's around, even my own spouse. It's going to make me more comfortable and confident in producing the work I'm putting out into the world. The one last thing I'll say before we move on is people aren't necessarily like consuming our content and then continuing to linger on it. And I know that sounds a little bit strange, but one thing that's helped me feel better about this being perceived or having my content be seen is knowing that people are scrolling. Like think about it yourself. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a consumer, okay? I don't care if you're scrolling social media, watching videos on a social channel, consuming like an actual course, like it doesn't necessarily matter. I want you to think about in that situation, when you're consuming that content and you walk away, like, do you actually sit with it? The answer is probably not. Like, you see so much every single day, and very little of it is actually going to stick with you. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that making someone laugh isn't going to let them hold on to that joy, or teaching someone a lesson isn't going to allow them to learn from it and allow them to grow from it, whether personally or professionally. It absolutely can, but they're not sitting there thinking about if you had something in your teeth or how you looked or how you presented yourself, if you were confident or not, none of those things. They're just scrolling on by or consuming on by and moving on to the next thing. Everyone is thinking far more about themselves than they are thinking about absolutely anyone else. Ultimately, you being visible is necessary and exciting. You get to be visible. Now more than ever, you have more opportunities to be seen by an organic audience and get free traffic to your offers from people all over the globe. This is a wild time to be alive and an incredible opportunity to grow your business. Obstacle number 3. You're worried your digital product won't sell and you'll be a failure. Okay, but what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't sell? Is that actually a bad thing? Is something not working a negative? No, like absolutely not. If you think about the world of science, absolutely everything we've ever learned about the human body or our environment or species that walk this planet or stars in the sky, it all started as a guess. I think this might happen if I do this. You're launching a digital product with the assumption, I think people need this. I'm going to put it out into the world and we're going to see what happens. And if you treat absolutely everything you do like an experiment, all of a sudden the pressure dissipates completely. It's not a did you win or did you lose? It's a what happened? What can I learn? How can I improve? What do I want to try next? Opportunity. It is such a huge opportunity to learn and gather new insights and new information and improve for next time. And so if you quote fail and don't sell any, there's a couple of things that could mean. It could mean It wasn't put in front of enough people. You didn't have enough visibility. You didn't have enough eyeballs. You didn't have enough people consuming that content. You didn't have enough traffic to a sales page for it to convert. It could mean that your messaging is off, that people don't understand what it is that you're selling, that they don't get what they will get out of consuming it. And it could also mean that maybe they do understand it. Maybe there was enough traffic, but it doesn't solve either a big enough problem or a specific enough problem or a problem they're facing right now. You could have the right messaging and a ton of traffic, but if it's for the wrong set of people, then it might not convert. Now, how are you supposed to decipher which of those things it is? I mean, I think the traffic thing is pretty easy to tell. While you may be utilizing a sales page on Teachable, you can start to gather insights as to how many people landed there by using something like a Bitly link. So you could take that sales page link, put it in something like Bitly, and then you can actually look at the Bitly traffic and see how many people clicked to view this page. Now, that's not necessarily going to take into account the organic views. I'm at the point where I tend to like to build more complicated sales pages on my own website. And with that, I have access to the analytics that are built into Squarespace, as well as the analytics on Google. And I can tell exactly how many people are visiting that page. I can even tell how many people are on that page right now. But that being said, if you were to create a Bitly and you were to launch this and you were going to give yourself 2 weeks for a beta launch, how much traffic is enough traffic? I would say, like, at the bare minimum, 100 people. You could still only see 1 to 2 conversions from 100 people, and those would have to be the right 100 people. I think you're going to start to see a lot more information after you've passed 1,000 views or more on your page. That's going to feel like a lot, but people are going to come back. People are going to revisit. People are going to click multiple times. People are going to interact multiple times. You're likely to convert the people that are the warmest the fastest, and the people that are colder or brand new to your world may take a little bit longer to convert. Now, that being said, do I convert cold traffic every day? Yeah, I absolutely have people who didn't know who I was before, who visited my sales page for the first time, who checked out and went through all of the processes. Like, that does happen. But it's not a perfect world, and there's going to be other things that come into play. Now, okay, let's put aside traffic. How do you know it's messaging? I think this is an opportunity to pull people. So I love a survey. If you have an email list and you put it out there and you're not seeing the kind of response that you thought you might, a great follow-up to a launch would be a survey post-launch to ask someone why they didn't purchase. You can ask a couple of questions, but you can learn so much from a post-launch survey. Is it required? No. But is it going to help you understand the needs of those people? Absolutely. Now, if you don't have an email list, don't worry. You can also ask your ideal clients. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who purchased from you. And it can be a little bit hard to do this in an unbiased way. However, I want you to try to gather at least 5 people that kind of fit the ideal markers of who you want to be working with. And, ideally, these people are people you actually know and have a relationship with. But if not, you want to strike up a conversation and say, I just want some feedback on my sales page. Like, no pressure to purchase. I just genuinely want to know a couple of things. And I would ask them specific questions like, what do you believe it is that I'm selling? What transformation do you think that it will provide? How challenging do you think it will be to complete? How long do you think it will take to complete? Basically, reverse engineering. Do they actually know what it is, who it's for, what it's going to do for them? All of those things. And if their answers come out wonky, then it's probably a messaging thing. Now, if it comes back and you're like, well, that was good and traffic was good. Okay, well, by process of elimination, then it may very well be that it's either not a big enough problem, not an important enough problem, not a problem that is priority enough. And that's okay. It may just mean you need to tackle a different problem altogether with a different digital product. And that's totally fine. Like, that's not the end of the world. The whole point of launching on pre-sales anyway is to be able to gather this information before you produce the product. So if ultimately no one purchases, you're really only out the time it took to market it, not also the time it took to build it, because theoretically you haven't yet built the thing that it is that you're putting out into the world. Obstacle number 4. You want to create something that is truly useful for your audience, but you don't know what it is. Now, I can't say without a doubt that this is the situation that you're in. However, most people that go out and launch something are serving people that are like them, that were them, that were the things that you used to struggle with or that you used to be challenged by. It's just like a natural part of life that we want to help people get to where we are. Now, it's not to say that you can't have a different ideal client that's different from who you are, but you would have needed a lot of interaction with this type of person to truly understand their needs, wants, and desires. It is much easier to serve people that are like a past version of ourselves. And we can go back in time in our minds and think about what were the things I was challenged with when I was in this position that is most similar to the shoes they're in right now. And then I want you to ask yourself, what tools, what templates, what strategies, what scripts, what got you unstuck? What helped you solve that problem? And the things that sell best are things we've used, are things we've used before and have benefited from. So, is it a spreadsheet you've created for yourself to track XYZ thing? Is it a list you put together of resources for this type of thing? Is it things you've discovered over time and you can compile that all in one position? I want you to think about, what are the things that helped you get to where you are? Because that's the whole point. We're trying to solve a problem. We are trying to help someone go from point A to point B. And point A to point B needs to be fairly transactional when we get into the digital product realm. If you're like, oh my God, I needed this and this and this and this and this and this and this to go from here to there, then baby, that's too big of a problem for a digital product. That might make sense for a group coaching program or a signature course or even a one-on-one service. But if you're thinking it's got 75 components, you're probably trying to put too much into this thing. Simplify, 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 simplify. Okay. I just got off the phone with someone a couple of days ago. He is in the home building niche. Okay. So he has a background in construction, and his digital product is the ultimate home builder's guide checklist. It's literally a list of things that you need to think about or consider if you're building your first or next house. And that list, when you go through it, is going to help you compile all the things that you need to communicate to your builder so that you get the house that you want. It's a PDF. Like it might be an Excel spreadsheet. I'm a little bit unsure on that, but ultimately it's a list. Like this is not complicated. Now, do I think that's a beefy digital product because that list is going to be long and hefty and have a ton of components? Yeah. But maybe it's not an entry point digital product, but it is still simple. He could provide 1,000 things to help you get the house that you want when you're going through the construction process, but he distilled it down to a tool that is going to help you communicate your needs, wants, and desires with another key player in this process. Often the things that are the most useful to other people are the things we take for granted. Like, let that sink in. Like, the things that are most useful to other people are the things we take for granted. Okay, what am I taking for granted? What do I know? Or what do I do? Or what activity do I take? What's my routine around XYZ thing that I take for granted and just do naturally? Those are things that can turn around and be taught and even sold. I remember back in the day, I've had a lot of different businesses, okay? This business is absolutely my primary one. I love to educate. I love to teach other small business owners. But I've had some hankerings, okay? So at one point, I was doing some health coaching because I was going through my own health transformation after my car accident. And regardless, part of that was talking about food. I talked a ton about food and I talked a lot about grocery shopping. And I developed a system because I used to get incredibly overwhelmed by dinner. Like, I know that sounds goofy, but like, I would get off of work. I even work from home at this point. I would get off of work. I would go to the fridge. I would stare at the fridge and like want to sob because one, I was already starving by the time I got to the fridge. Two, I was frustrated because someone else didn't just magically do it for me. I wasn't communicating my needs to my partner. Like there was a lot going on here. Okay. And so I needed to solve this problem for myself, or I was either going to get divorced or like never hit any of the health goals that I had for myself. So I was like, what's going to work for me? Ultimately, I came up with a meal planning system that helps me get the right groceries in my house every single week so that I'm no longer stressed about dinner time. Now, the system is not complicated, but I remember the first time I taught it to someone else, they were like, this is freaking mind blowing. And I was like, guys, I literally just made a list and went to the grocery store and got the things. And now I know what I can make this week for dinner. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to think about a problem that was just driving you mad. And then you came up with a simple solution that other people haven't implemented. And now you might be sitting here thinking, well, there's a gajillion meal plans out there. Why would I want to create another one? Well, because you haven't done it yet. I don't know how else to explain this, but you're going to have your own approach that's different than everyone else. Now, if you're going to go out and buy someone else's meal plan, copy paste it into your own document, redesign it and sell it, that is unethical. That is stealing. But you saying, I had this problem, this is how I fixed it, and this was my unique approach that, while similar to some things other people do, it is my version. That is okay. That is okay. And it's going to sell well. Now, I ultimately utilize that concept in a lot of free content and didn't end up turning it into a digital product, but I absolutely could have. And I am fully confident, based on the millions of dollars in sales I've had inside Boss Project, that it would have worked incredibly well. So I want you thinking about a problem that was just driving you absolutely mad And what was the solution you came up with? And you may, in some ways, think of it as an accommodation. Like, I had to build this thing to like make my life easier or I was going to go crazy. Perfect. That's it. That's what you're doing. Okay. That is what you're doing. Now, if it doesn't already exist because you had to learn 1,000 different things and then you piece together a ton of different strategies, and like now you just do it naturally, but you never wrote all that down, okay, then you haven't developed it yet, but you also know the answer. The fact that you care so much about it being truly useful is highlighting just how much you care about your audience. You want this to be a game changer. You want this to impact them. You standing in that value is showing so much integrity that I'm confident you already have the right mindset to come out on the other side and help people. It's not about hitting the nail on the head. We don't have to get there with the very first thing that we launch every single time. We simply need to make that transition. How are we going to get there? What's going to happen? What do we need to do to help people get to the other side? And if this person wasn't us and it wasn't something that we were solving, I would question a little bit, like, why is that person your ideal client? And you may very well have a solid reason, but you might be thinking, okay, say I do have a solid reason. It wasn't me, but I've helped other people in this way. I want you to be thinking about perhaps something that you've been doing in a one-on-one environment. How could you take a small piece of a service that you're already performing, a teeny tiny piece of it, and help them just get through step 1 of 50, you know? Obstacle number 5. You want income that isn't tied to your time, but you're too busy to actually create your product. I honestly had to sit with this one. I had to sit and think about it because I know that this can feel so real. And I was initially planning to say, you're just not paying attention to the time you do have. But I don't necessarily think that is the right answer. I truly know there are seasons of life that we don't have time. I can absolutely think about them in my own. Times when I was sick, times when I was caring for someone else, times I was distracted, times I was busy because I had other priorities, whether that was moving my house or working on an addition or whatever. It didn't necessarily matter. There have been times in my life where this would have been so much. However, I have 2 questions for you. Is this a priority? Because if it is, then you very well may need to let something else go. And I'm not suggesting it's the thing that you're thinking is taking up all of your time. Like, if you have a health thing going on, I'm not suggesting you back burner the health thing, because that should stay your number 1 priority. But is there something else that you're currently feeling obligated to do that isn't actually helping you get you to where you want to go? Or maybe it's become busy work and that you just feel this necessity to stay in this cycle. I also think it often doesn't take nearly as long as we think it does to develop. Now, if you were going to say, I'm developing a signature course, I truly, absolutely, with balancing work and other obligations, planning out the curriculum, writing, like all of the things that go into that, it could take me a solid 30 days to go from start to finish on that, making significant amount of time for it every single week. But a digital product, you should be able to develop from start to finish, like all the components that go into it, not just the launch part, but like the actual thing you're delivering in a Saturday. and I'm not saying you should do it on Saturday, but that's what I mean. Like, you wake up, you have a leisurely breakfast, you you work on this most of the day. You maybe grab some dinner with your spouse, watch a show or two, come back and finish up a couple things. Maybe you need to polish things up the following week, but like in reality, it, if a digital product is taking you longer than 1 to 2 days to produce, you might have to break it up. I get for some people that they would need to do a little bit at a time. Totally fine. I have found that creating like a protected space and time is going to make it far easier for me to hit that goal than to try to do a chunk here, a chunk there, a chunk here, a chunk there. There are some bigger projects that you have to do that for, but this is not one of them. That being said, there is a ton of time wasted all the time. Like if you were to look at your phone and look at your time usage, guarantee you, you're going to be shocked by how much it says you're scrolling. And okay, maybe you're like, no, I literally don't even have time for that right now. Okay. Well, is there a way you can ask for help? I know that feels hard. Like, I know it feels hard. I know it feels hard. But I have absolutely been in a position in my life and in my business where I needed someone to take something off my plate. And it was easier to have someone do that in my personal life to get the time and space I needed in my business working life. So maybe you need your spouse to make dinner for a week. Maybe you need someone to pick up the kids. Maybe, like, what is it? Like, what would buy back some of that time? Maybe you need a sitter. Maybe you need a friend to come watch someone. Like, it can happen. It's just a matter of priorities. Now, all of this to say, I do not want to discount that sometimes the number one priority is so big, we cannot fathom doing one more thing. And if that's where you're at, I would much prefer you rest and you focus on that thing. And when you're ready, this will be waiting for you. Obstacle number 6. You have a great idea, but you're not sure how to build all the supporting elements you need to sell it. Think email copy, sales pages, tech, and automations. If you're watching this, you're already inside Digital Product Fast Track, which means you already have access to all of these things. It's just a matter of consuming what we put together and going through it in order. Everywhere along the way, you're going to hear about the strategy. And then immediately followed by that, you're going to hear about the tech. Anywhere along the way, if you need a script or a template or a PDF or whatever, we have tried to make absolutely everything you're going to need to go from idea to launch in one day. So all of this is laid out for you step by step by step with all the templates necessary, with all the tech walkthroughs necessary, and we are going to make this as easy as possible. Obstacle number 7. You don't have an existing audience of ideal customers, or your audience is too small. I know when you look around, it can feel like everyone already has an audience and you are just the only one on the planet that doesn't have people ready and waiting to be sold to. And I just want to remind you that absolutely everyone who starts a business, unless they go out and purchase another one, starts at zero. We all started with no audience. We all started with no email list. We all started with nobody who was an ideal fit. It was all from scratch. Now, that being said, could you go out and focus on content creation for the next couple of weeks or even months to try to build up an audience of people to ultimately sell to? You can. I'm not saying you can't or that you shouldn't. However, my personal philosophy is this is going to give you the foundation necessary so that when you do go create some of that content, you have a place to send them. You have a destination. You have something of value that they can go consume. Otherwise, where are they going? Like, what are they doing? Are they just hanging out and waiting? I'm not saying they can't do that, but I just feel like it's weird. This would provide so much purpose for me if I were starting from zero, because now I have clear context of the themes that I would want to include in my content, the problems that I'm talking about, the, dream life before and after. Like, what did life look like then? And what does life look like now? And how does your digital product help you go from A to B? All of those things become content creation ideas. Now, that being said, I knew that this would come up. And so at the beginning of the year, I did exactly that. And I started a brand new account from zero. And immediately, like from the first post, started talking about a digital product. And I just wanted to see how it would go. I did this for 30 days, and I focused both on this brand new page and my existing personal account, as well as an older account that had lost a lot of engagement. And I was like, at the end of the day, what is going to be the most helpful? What is going to take off? Like, is it worth it to invest over here or over there or whatever? And ultimately, that brand new account, because it was so focused on one particular topic, it was growing the fastest. And it was getting sales almost from day one. Now, that being said, do I think some warm traffic from some of my other channels came over there? Yes, I'm not denying that. However, you also aren't starting at ground zero the way you think you are. Maybe that page is at zero, but you have people who love and care about you all over the place, whether that's in your community, whether that's in a Facebook group, whether that's your friends, it doesn't matter. Those people will come and support you. Not everyone who follows you from day one is meant to purchase from you, but they can absolutely cheer you on. They can engage in your content. They can love what you're doing, and they can watch from the sidelines adoringly. Like, all of those things are positives. They're not going to hurt you in the long term. That being said, I did ultimately decide to double down and focus on my personal account and really kind of shift the tides from just personal content to personal plus business. And that has felt super good. And my account is growing rapidly. That being said, I could have totally started from zero if I had wanted to. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to go about doing this. However, growing from zero, building this digital product as step one is going to give you the framework of things to talk about, of things to test and try. And it is absolutely where I would start. So I could get paid. Listen to what I'm saying. Get paid to build a list of qualified leads that I can ultimately sell into other offers. Obstacle number 8. You don't know how you're going to make your digital product look professional and polished, aka you're not a designer. Well, I have great news for you. I am. I actually went to school for design. That is my background. That is where I started before I did any of this. And I would love to help. Now, this does not have to be complicated. Inside Digital Product Fast Track, I am providing a template, which actually someone on my team made. Kaylin is a fantastic designer as well. She made you guys a template that's going to serve as a placeholder product that will sit and wait until you're ready to launch your final thing after beta. That being said, the templates that's there is super easy to edit. Like, we're walking you through all the tech. You don't need to design anything. You just need to write a couple of words and switch out one photo. I promise you can do this. But moving forward, what does that look like? I want you to be aware that we have a ton of templates available to you. You can find out more at creativetemplateshop.com. There are hundreds of templates from guides and workbooks and course graphics and everything in between. And if you want access to absolutely all of it, you can become a member to the co-op. Inside that membership, you are going to get everything. Everything that you see at creativetemplateshop.com is going to be available to you as part of your membership. So if you're feeling stuck there, that membership is definitely going to be cheaper than hiring a designer to produce it for you. And I promise you, we're making it accessible so that it's going to be easy for you to implement on your own without any design expertise. And the great news is that because there are so many templates available to you inside Creative Template Shop, you're going to find a ton of complementary graphics. So if you want to build a workbook today and then you want to go market that and post something on stories and you want something to feel related, or you want an Instagram reel cover, or you want graphics to put on your website, everything is branded in a way that it's all going to mesh together. So you have the opportunity to choose from a soft palette, a neutral palette, or a bright palette. And even once you pick one of those, all of the colors are completely customizable. So if you have a set brand, you can incorporate those super easily. We also have walkthroughs on how to add your own graphics and photos and make everything completely custom to you. Obstacle number 9, you have multiple ideas and don't know which one to move forward with. First of all, what a great problem to have. I am so excited for you that you have so many things you could do. Now, the way to think about this is really about setting priorities. So I walk you through inside milestone 1 how to take that list and break it down and reverse engineer which one you should move forward with. But the quick and dirty, I would take those list of ideas that you already have and prioritize them from like easiest to implement to most complicated to implement. And then also, in addition to that, cross-reference it with what do you have the most already ready for? Like, you may have one that's kind of midway down the list that, takes a little more work to get out into the world, but you have 90% of it complete over here. Well, that's going to quickly go to the top of the list for me. But that being said, I have a much more linear approach inside milestone 1. Ultimately, if you're just picking between a couple, I truly would just flip a coin. That may feel oversimplified, but you are likely, like most other people, overestimating what you can do in a short period of time. But you're also likely dramatically underestimating what you can do in a long period of time. And so, all of that to say, the lovely list of products that you have written down, maybe they're the list of products you're developing over the next 6 months or the next year or the next 2 years. But you'll get to them when you get to them. And when you do get to them, you might have a new philosophy or something you would tweak or something that's going to make that even easier. That if you were to try to do everything all at once right now, none of them would get done. So I would much rather you move forward with one idea. Whether it's the right one or not is irrelevant. And get something out into the world. Learning this information, gathering those insights, seeing how that launch performs is going to tell you far more than having all of these ideas just written in a notebook or sitting in your notes app or typed up on your computer. You need the data from the actual launch, from actually selling it. And that is going to give you everything you need to know to move forward. Last time I counted, which it's been a while, so I don't know if this is exactly accurate, but last time I counted, our team had developed over 368 digital products. And that was in the span of 3 or 4 years. That's 100 plus digital products a year. That's like 2 a week, which is bananas. But you don't need that many. You could do absolutely just one. One could be absolutely enough. My business is far more complicated than yours ever needs to be. And if I could go back in time, I would make mine a lot simpler. So I don't want you to get overwhelmed by what could be, but I do want you to know that you can probably complete a lot more than you think is possible with time. Time is on your side. I just want you to move forward with this next one. Obstacle number 10. Your digital product relies on other content or resources that you haven't finished creating yet. For example, a course to pair with a book that you're actively writing. I think my answer might surprise you. I wouldn't build your digital product yet. Like, not this one, anyway. If this product relies on something else needing to be finished, then you need to be finishing that thing. Like, that's the thing that needs to be the priority. I think so often in business and in life, we want to jump ahead and we want to build these other things. It is always 100% of the time been easier for me to reverse engineer than it is to like build from the ground up. So what do I mean by that? Like, if you're taking a book and turning that into a course and then turning that into a digital product and then turning that into a lead magnet, it's going to be easier to make it in that order than the reverse every single time. Because by the time you get to the bigger piece of content, whether it's teaching or writing or whatever, it doesn't matter what the end form is. That end form is going to be so different than what you would have done if you did it last. However, all of that to say, by the time you go through that process, big thing, medium-sized thing, small thing, whatever, entry thing, by the time you get there, it's a cycle. You're going to have to start over. So by the time you get around to developing the lead magnet, it's probably time to readdress the bigger kahuna, which, you know, if it was a book, it might not necessarily mean a new version of the book, but maybe it's your second book. Or, you know, it could be version 2.0 of the book. I know plenty of authors who've written, you know, 10 versions of the same book, but they went back and revised it over time. And there's so much power in that. All of that to say, it doesn't mean you can't participate in this challenge and produce a digital product today. It just might not be the one you originally had in your head, and that is totally fine. I do want you to be thinking about, if you're gung-ho on moving forward and developing something right now, I want you to be thinking about what is a smaller piece of the puzzle, because likely you're trying to do too much all at once. If we're talking about a book into a course, like that is a big project, like 2 massive projects. But like, what is one function of the thing inside of it? Like, say for instance, you're writing a book about HR. Okay. And we're talking about management and leadership and HR best practices and all the things. You may have 15 different concepts that you cover throughout the course of this book. You may take one of those concepts and create a digital product around it. And think of that concept as potentially like the template or the done for you version of that thing. So if we're talking about management and leadership and HR, maybe it is a meeting agenda template. Maybe it is a one-on-one meeting guide for new leaders, for new hires. All of those things are incredibly valuable, but they're probably much smaller than you're currently thinking. And small is good. Simple is good. The more specific the problem, the easier it's gonna be to sell. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. Obstacle number 11. You're not a tech person and you feel like you don't know how to set things up. I cannot stress enough that we are covering everything that you need inside Digital Product Fast Track. It's going to help you go from idea to launch in one day on one idea or concept. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't other tech. Obviously, there's things like automations on social media and email and all of these other things. And I am going to be here to help you through as many of those issues as possible. I love tech, I love breaking down tech, and I want to make your life simpler. So, after you've gone through everything inside Fast Track, if you're looking for one step ahead, if you're looking for another layer to add to the strategy, to add to the tech, then Digital Product Jumpstart is going to be that next step. We're going to talk more about positioning. We're going to talk more about funnels. We're going to talk more about the tech behind those funnels. And then if you're looking at the step beyond that, when it gets into marketing and how do you market something on Evergreen, then Instagram Profit Playbook is going to be a great example of how you can move through that. And you can find out more about that at bossproject.com/playbook. There's so much at your fingertips. Take it one step at a time. We're here to support you. If you need to reach Team Boss Project, you can at hello@bossproject.com. And if we're specifically talking about tech on Teachable, I know the Teachable team is ready and willing to help you with whatever that comes up. So feel free to reach out to support and they will put you in the right direction. There's a ton of support articles out there. There is a ton of YouTube videos. Their entire team is fantastic. We're here to help. We cannot wait to see what you launch and put out into the world. It's going to be so fantastic. I'm so excited for you. And I hope this helped you overcome some of those challenges that have been standing in your way.